Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone has been having an excellent week so far, irrespective of the heat and the heat index concerns that we've had throughout the city. I've always, um, we always want to make sure that we remind our audience to look out for the neighbor in in areas when we have a time where we have excessive harsh conditions, especially the elderly. So if you guys can stay on task and look out for your neighbor, Mrs. Johnson or Mrs. Simmons, and grandma, grandpa, old people like me, look out for us and help us make sure that we stay well hydrated and alive. Okay. I want to welcome everybody to Pause for the Truth, where we explore the intersection of health, equity, and justice through candid conversations. Today's episode, but before I say that, Ms. Turner won't be with us today. There's some urgent matter that came up with her. So it'll be myself, and then I also have our usual guy behind the scenes come up before in front of the camera. It's not the first time he's done that, so you guys can deal with that as you may. And Tyrone, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dr. Kane, and I keep hearing people talking about this here weather being hot, but this is Florida. What more can you ask for than beautiful, hot, sunshiny days?
Less hot, less heat.
There you go.
That's what I'll ask for. Less heat.
There you go. Always asking for more.
Well, on Pause for the Truth, we usually explore the intersection of health, equity, and justice through candid conversation. Today's episode, we're going to dive into a rising political shift. We titled it "The Rise and Prominence of Black Republican Politics in Jacksonville." I think it's a very interesting topic. We'll look at Black political identity and how it evolved from the days of Reconstruction to today, and what this shift means for civic engagement and representation of cities like Jacksonville. Joining us are two exceptional voices: a Black historian, Dr. Marcella Washington, and whom is I'll let her introduce herself in a second, as well as a Black Republican candidate running for the at-large seat at Jacksonville City Council. Together, they'll help us kind of understand both the historical roots and real-time reality of this growing political movement. Dr. Washington, remind our audience, you've been on the show before, remind our audience a little bit about yourself, please, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. I am Marcella Washington, and I am a political scientist. I am a native of Jacksonville, Florida, and I have taught government here at Florida State College for almost 30 years. I'm retired now, but prior to that, I taught for years in Texas, in Houston Community College, at Prairie View A&M University, at Edward Waters College for a little while early in my early career. But basically, I study politics and analyze political events.
Oh, thank you. And Ms. Deborah Wesley, other than being a good friend of Dr. Kane, what do you want to tell audience about yourself?
Well, my name is Deborah Wesley. I am a candidate for City Council at Large, Group 1. I am a native of Jacksonville, Florida, born and raised here. My parents were from Mississippi. They came here in the 1950s and started a family, and I'm the youngest of 10. I'm a country girl at heart. Grew up in the country, but I live here in the city now.
10. Wow.
Yes.
I can only imagine. So let's get started because, we have an hour. Every now and then we run a few minutes over, but we're going to try to keep it on time as much as possible. We're going to start with the professor. Professor Washington, Dr. Washington. Can you walk us through the historical relationship between Black Americans and the Republican Party, especially from Reconstruction period through the civil rights era?
Yeah. Well, of course, after the Civil War, of course, during the Civil War and after the Civil War, once the war was over, African Americans, politically, African American men associated with the Republican Party. It was the party of Abraham Lincoln. It was the party that defeated the Confederates, who were primarily Democrats in the South. The Republican Party was more or less a northern and Midwestern party, and it came south in order to occupy the South after the war. And with this period, from about 1866 to 1873 or 74, we call Reconstruction. And it was during this period that a large number of African Americans, Republicans, were elected to public office. They served in local office, in state office, in county offices, numerous here in Florida. And I'm just going to mention a book that there are a couple, but one is by a historian from, I think, Florida, University of Florida, maybe, but his name is Cantor Brown Jr. And he's written an excellent book called Florida's Black Public Officials from 1867 to 1924. And that book really highlights a lot about the role that the black males played in the Republican Party up until probably in Jacksonville until about maybe 1904 and 1905. And then, of course, the Democratic Party regained control of the Republicans, and they the military left the South, and they abandoned, in a way, Black voters. And so we were left to the mercy of the Democratic Party. But at any rate, and we'll talk about that later, how that changed tremendously, but we can get into that. But also one other person I will mention, I have to give mention to a Jacksonville native, Abel Bartley, who is a historian, who's written a book called Keeping the Faith. And his book is also about Jacksonville and the Republican and Democratic Party. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, Black males were Republicans from the end of the Civil War to the early 1900s. And then after that, Black participation fell apart because we had the white primary, the poll tax, the literacy test, the grandfather clause, and very few African Americans participated until we got the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act later on in the 1960s.
And now to you, Ms. Wesley, what can you tell us about yourself and what inspired you to run for public office?
Well, as I said, I was born and raised here in Jacksonville. I'm a graduate of Ribault High School. I joined the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office when I was 19 years old. I've been with the agency now for 34 and a half years. And during my career, I, moved up through the ranks from officer to sergeant, internal affairs investigator, lieutenant, appointed to the sheriff's staff. And in that capacity, I've been managing people, managing processes, solving problems, working on teams for more than 3/4 of my career. And so now I strongly believe that I am being called to serve in a greater capacity. I'll be retiring in January. I will be able to devote all of my time to serve the citizens of Duval County on the city council. So this is the path and the journey that I've been placed on right now. This is really for me, it's an assignment, a divine assignment that didn't start out as a choice for me, but rather a discovery of what my path is moving forward.
Okay. And so, Dr. Washington, how did the party's platform shift in the 20th century influence Black voter realignment, particularly in the South?
Yeah, I mean, politically, once the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were written, and a majority, and Blacks live primarily in the South, the Democratic Party, which was the dominant party in the South, were forced, I guess, in a way, to admit Black people into their primaries and into their electoral process. And the Republican Party primarily died, in a sense. It didn't actually die, it kind of went dormant. So Blacks began to join the Democratic Party, And with the Voting Rights Act and the election, I think primarily we begin to see this after Lyndon Johnson, but certainly with the election of Jimmy Carter, we begin to see the Black vote really turn to the Democratic Party and being represented more in the Democratic Party. And the Republican Party that was in the South was sort of left empty, and there were Republican Democratic voters, primarily white voters, who were dissatisfied with the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, and they began to build up the Republican Party. And therefore, the Republican Party became almost like the Democratic Party of the last century, okay? And it became a much more conservative party, a white party, an anti-civil rights party, not totally. But it is, of course, it's evolved more to that today. So it was because of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act that the Democratic Party, which was the dominant party in the South, and it always has been, even though for a little while the Republicans were in control, the dominant Democratic Party, once blacks became members of the Democratic Party, and don't forget, there was something that the Democrats established called the white primary. Have we heard anything about that? Where we had to go to court. We had to have numerous cases for blacks to even become members of the Democratic Party, because the white Democrats did not want blacks to be members of the Democratic Party. It was a struggle. It was a fight. It took legislation. It took effort. And with the Voting Rights Act and Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, blacks became solidly more involved with the Democratic Party, and whites began to flee the Democratic Party and go over to the Republican Party. And actually, you can see that, for example, Strom Thurmond in South Carolina was a former Democrat. Many former Democrats who were white males left the Democratic Party, went over to the Republican Party. It was a long process. It started around the late 1950s, early 1960s, and it culminated, I think, probably in the early mid 1990s of 2000s, that type of thing. And now it's pretty much complete now. So that now there are blacks in the Republican Party, and even that's why I wanted, when we get to the question about Jacksonville, I think I can explain a little bit more about why we have these black Republicans in office in Jacksonville. There's a reason for that we can talk about. I'm sure Ms. Wesley will help us with her interest in that as well.
So, Ms. Wesley, as a Black Republican, let's lead right into that. What is the response from your community been like?
So for the people who actually know me, the response has been extremely positive. I believe that's greatly because my character speaks so loud that my political affiliation doesn't matter. People, my track record, the things that I've been doing and how I've been serving in every capacity that I've worked in whether at work or as a volunteer in the community, people know my heart, and they know that I am here to serve, not for personal gain, but to serve and to help others. So my political party, for those that know me, really hasn't been a question. I have encountered some people who didn't know me and was concerned and had some questions, and I welcome those conversations. I've met with many people throughout the city, and I've shared, been very transparent about who I am, where I'm from, what some of my thoughts and views are. And those conversations have all ended very positive, with them giving me their support.
Good. So, Dr. Washington, have you seen any notable but often overlooked Black Republicans, leaders or movements in Jacksonville's past?
Well, obviously, of course, during that period I mentioned, we had, tremendous Black leadership in the Republican Party, but that has not been as prominent in recent history. What has happened is in 1960, as you're well aware, Jacksonville became a consolidated city. The city of Jacksonville went away and we became Duval County, and we were married with Duval County. And as a result of that, we got these 5 at large and 14 districts. And there's a long history of politics behind that, because that's not the way it originally started out. There were supposed to be 21 districts, and the Beaches wanted to have their city government, and Baldwin wanted to have their city. In the end, Jacksonville had decided the committee to study consolidation decided that they would come up with the 14 and the 5. And here's where the rub is. As a result of these 5 at-large districts, where everybody in Duval County will elect a member of the city council, we have had more Black Republicans elected to those districts, and that's one of the districts that Ms. Wesley is seeking. So since 1968, we've had one Black male Democrat serve at large city council. The remaining have been Black women and Black men who are Republicans. And the reason has to do with, in part, because they are running at large citywide. In Jacksonville, according to the 2020 census, was the most populous majority white city in the United States, okay? So I guess my point is we've only had 2. One is a Democrat, and one is a Republican. African Americans, well, one Republican, and that's Ken Amaro. He doesn't really come from a predominantly Black district. I guess I'm saying that Blacks on the city council who represents districts that are majority Black are Democrats. Blacks on the city council who run at large are Republican. And so that's something to ponder and think about. It's a reality. It is the fact. And so we need to look at and analyze why is that so. And we can go down the names. Gwen Chandler Thompson, Glorious Johnson, Kimberly Daniels, who was a Democrat. I'm sorry, I missed Kimberly Daniels. But Kimberly Daniels was a unique.
All right, looks like we got some technical issues, but I'll take a moment.
Go ahead.
I'll take a moment to go in here because I think this is a perfect lead in. And one of the questions I have is, so as a Black Republican in Jacksonville, what are some of the most common misconceptions?
There you go.
And you want me? That's
yes.
That a question for me?
That's for you, Dr.
Yeah, I found that probably one of the most common misconceptions is that Black Republicans are less connected to Black culture, not connected to the Black community. And what I would like people to know about me personally as a Black Republican and as a candidate for city council at large. Remember this, I graduated from one of the best Black schools here in Jacksonville. I'm a 1989 graduate of Ribault High School. As an adult, I've lived in Arlington off of Fort Caroline Road. I've lived in Grand Park on 25th Street. I've lived in Sherwood on Fletchette. I volunteered with the Greater Jacksonville Pop Warner Football Conference through the Forest View Athletic Association for 18 years. Forest View is located on Sutel Drive. So what am I saying? I am a member of this Black community. I have served in this Black community. I understand the needs of the citizens in this Black community. I grew up in Mandarin on a farm, and I understand that there are needs over there. I understand that there are different needs over here. But to say that, as a Republican, we don't understand Black people or that we're not connected to the community, I think that is the furthest thing from the truth. I am very active in my ministry, which is a predominantly Black church. And I'm just here to serve everyone. It's not about race. It's not about even the party, but for me, I'm here to serve every citizen in Duval County.
So, Dr. Washington, go ahead, Dr. Washington. You got something you want to say?
I commend, first of all, I hear what Deborah Wesley is saying, and I commend her. And she sounds like a very, interested individual in politics, but it's the connection to the party that is of a concern, because the Republican Party, especially today, led by Donald Trump, is perhaps the most anti-Black political party in the history of the nation, even more so than when George W. Bush led the party, even more so than Ronald Reagan led the party. The party has gone to extreme levels to discount African-American participation, to discount African-American interest in this government. And I think we have to, look at DEI and how they're dealing with that. And I think here in Jacksonville, again, I want to emphasize that in every instance, and most instance, when a Black Republican runs in a Black district, that Black Republican does not win. Okay, and I think we need to look at that. But the Black Republicans run at large, and they're and I mentioned Ken Amaro, who is a district council member. He's a bit unique in this way. Don't forget, Ken Amaro invited us all and know him. He was on television the same way Donna Deegan was, the same way Joyce Morgan was. So there was a celebrity to him that allowed him to win that seat. But I would say this. I think if Ken Amaro had run, and he's in District 1, had run as a Democrat, he would have won either way, okay? Because he was so well known and people trusted him, and I'm on your side and all that. But I do think it's interesting that Miss Wesley is presenting herself as an individual, separate from the party. I think she's going to have a bit of difficulty separating herself from the politics of the party. But I do think I see where her interest is and where her soul is. And I think that is something that I think is going to help her on the way. And also, one more thing about the at-large council member. Don't forget, when we had the shooting at the Dollar General, and, I thought this would be an opportunity for every city council member to come, especially the at-large council members. What makes them unique is that they represent the entire city. I think only one showed up, maybe two. Because what happens is they don't represent a district, so the voters in Jacksonville have to understand they have not just one council member from their district, they have 5. And Deborah Wesley wants to be one of those 5, and there will be 6. So when they go to the polls, they're really voting for 6 council members. The problem is getting those 5 at large accountable in the way that you can get, if you can, the district council members. And I will say this on the last point. That doesn't mean I think that the Democratic Party has been all that. The Democratic Party has taken Black votes for granted as well. But I think the Republican Party at this point is not the answer. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's your opinion. And so, Ms. Washington, what message you want to give to these young Black voters? Because, and Tyrone, you can chime in on this. Young Black voters who may be unsure where they fit politically.
Oh, good. I taught government for 40 years.
Ms. Wesley first, then.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
You want to go in? Good. Chime in.
Okay, so before I answer that question, I would like to say that I haven't always been a registered Republican. But even as a Democrat, I realize that I've always had conservative views. And that's greatly because of the foundation that I received growing up, and the values and the principles that were taught of me by my parents. Now, since I've been on this journey, I can say that the majority of the people that I've had conversations with are concerned about the growth of Duval County. And I think one thing that has become a glaring issue is when we try and bring national politics into our local government. That can become an issue. I am here to serve the citizens. I'm not doing this for monetary gain or for personal gain. I understand the risks and the pressures that may come while serving in this role, but I know that this is a divine assignment for me, and I'm here to stand for what's right and the principles that I grew up with. Now, as far as the question about young Blacks and trying, to get them to understand where they fit in politically, I think that it's important for us to encourage them to do their own research. Unlike when I was growing up, we had to do everything um, by reading encyclopedias and dictionaries and everything, but they have computers, cell phones, iPads, everything right there at their fingertips. And I think what I would say to the young voter is first, I think they will need to figure out what their goals are and what issues matter the most to them. Then figure out which party best suits what it is they're trying to do and where they're trying to go, and then make an informed decision based on that. Because a lot of times parents will tell a child where we're this or we're that, and then they find later on in life that the way they registered to vote really doesn't line up with what their views really are. So I would say rather than us telling them what to do, we need to teach them or allow them to think for themselves and make those decisions on their own.
Now,
Tyrone, you can
that's in line with a lot of the things that I have when I talk with the young adults. Is that this understanding of party does not register in their way of life as true as it did in older generations.
Mm.
When I just had a conversation within the last week, and one of the things that surprised me the most that was said was one of the most important aspects of a candidate for them is relatability.
Mm.
Does that person truly relate to the things that I have concern about? Not what they say, but do they relate? And what they're finding more and more a challenge is finding individuals of either party
Mhm.
that truly relates to their needs. And so that so there was a couple of things you said, Ms. Wesley, I think that are going to be on spot for them.
Yes.
And it is no doubt that the exposure to uh, information and technology and the ability to truly research a person is more readily available now than it were in all of our younger times of growing up. And believe it or not, they are doing their research. Now, I can only speak for the ones who are engaged, the ones who truly want to be involved and truly want to make a difference.
Mhm.
There's a large group of them that are going to follow the person that make them feel the best, the person who wins the popularity contest, and that's true of the younger generations. But
Mhm.
I think history shows it. I think your message that you're speaking to shows it, and that is that every individual, regardless of what age group, will have to do their research and
Mhm.
make an informed decision about the candidate. And I think we're at a time in history where their political affiliation will have less impact on that decision.
I will say that in terms of I mean, I'm looking back even at my generation, and also I'm looking at my kids' generation because I have older kids. Now, we do have quite a bit of conservatism in the black community. Okay,
Yes,
even though we may have been voting Democratic, because our parents voted Democratic, there's still even our parents. There's a lot of conservatism that has taken place throughout the years in terms of our opinion. Now that's my opinion in terms of what I see. I grew up in predominantly Democratic household, but still there's a lot of conservatism in terms of what how we think about things, and so
Mhm.
on and so on. So, Dr. Washington, let's see. What do you think about the rise and fall of the rise and visibility of Black Republicans in cities like Jacksonville? And do you see this as a return to older traditions or a new kind of political reformation? Or what's your opinion on that?
It depends on how the Black Republicans address this and how they are able to influence the party. If you look at the appointments that have been made, Donald Trump has one Black member of his cabinet. He has, I mean, of course, now I think he's pushing a candidate for governor, Byron Donalds from Naples, to run for governor, but he has opportunities to appoint more African Americans. As a matter of fact, he's getting rid of African Americans who are serving on boards and commissions, and he's terminating their positions. So I think Donald Trump has been a bad thing for Black Republicans, and because I think he's very popular, primarily with a majority of the Black community. But I know that in the election in 2024, there were Blacks who voted for him, especially Black males. But I want to make this point in terms of Jacksonville, and I think what Deborah Wesley might appreciate, and that is she would be one of a number of Black women who are dominating Jacksonville politics. When we had the city council that was first inaugurated after consolidation, the first women who served on the city council were African American, okay? Sally Mathis and Mary Singleton. And since that time, there have been more, not just by inch or so, more Black women on the city council than Black men. And as a matter of fact, right now, you can see the tail. It's a little bit better now, but the women who are on the city council right now are all African American. And Deborah will be the third one if she is elected. So there's something to the idea of Black women. There's something to the idea of these Black Republicans in Jacksonville politics. And there is the analysis I say has to be made is that to what degree do they promote the interests of Black voters? I mean, when you look at something like bringing down Confederate monuments, I think that's something we can agree. We don't want Black monuments. Confederate monuments here in Jacksonville, but a large number of the Republicans do want those monuments to stay. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump wants to bring back the name of military installations and name them in favor of Confederates. So it's ironic that the Democratic Party, which used to be the party of the Confederacy, now is the other way. The Republican Party seems to be grabbing some of that. And it didn't always be that way. We had Republicans like Mitt Romney, even George W. Bush, who were a lot more moderate. I just think the Republican Party has gone so far to the extreme now that I'm hoping that with Deborah's participation and her information, that this will be channeled to them in case they don't know it. I don't understand why they don't hear it.
Well, that kind of goes right into Deborah, what kind of courage that look like for you as a Black Republican candidate, the courage to be able to stand up for your political beliefs, despite hearing from things that are antithetical, to your own political belief. And it requires a lot of courage. So what's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So for me, political courage is understanding the risks and the pressures that elected officials face and having the intestinal fortitude to stand and represent the public good. And that's what we all vow. That's our vow, when we say that we're going to serve. It's not giving in to those pressures. What makes sense? What is being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars? It is about what is the best for the citizens of Duval County, the taxpayers' dollars, and not a party. And as a candidate and as an elected official, we have to be strong enough to stand and speak for what's right and what makes sense.
And isn't it right, I think, for us to look at the poverty in many parts of the North Side and say, we can do something about that. We need to deal with that. That, the living conditions of minorities in that part of town and throughout parts of Jacksonville needs to be enhanced. Homelessness needs to be addressed. Hunger issues of social justice need to be addressed. And that doesn't mean that we can't say we need to be responsible with our money and all of that. I hear you. But I do think, and I grew up on Myrtle Avenue. And when it was in the 1960s, when it wasn't that kind of Myrtle Avenue. And I go down there now and I'm like, this is not good. We need to do better than this, and we can do better. And I think the issue is that, you know.
Oh,
All right, looks like I lost her. So, but that leads me into one of the things that we had here that we wanted to. Ms. Wesley, how are you working to engage Black voters who may feel politically disengaged or skeptical about the Republican Party as a whole?
Okay, so, well, I actually just filed and became an official candidate just 3 weeks ago. So I look at this conversation that we're having here today, the opportunity to be on this platform, for people to hear my voice, to hear my heart, to hear what my thoughts are and what my views
I'm
are.
sorry,
So
something
I'm
happened to
grateful.
me.
Dr.
Sorry,
Wesley,
something happened. Did you guys?
Dr. Washington, let Dr. Miss Wesley finish her
No,
thought.
all I'm saying is that I don't know if you saw that. I lost connection.
Yeah,
That's all.
let her just finish, and we're gonna come back to it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Miss Wesley.
so I'm grateful for these opportunities. I'm here.
Okay.
Anybody that wants to talk, I'm ready to talk.
Okay, and I hear you. I hear you when you say that. But this is something that I think, as a Black Republican, you're going to be faced with, and so this is something that would be advantageous to have a plan for, because as voters are wanting to move to a different direction, one where they believe they resonate with the individual. There needs to be a plan in place to engage those who are not, those who are on the fence, those who are on the border, so that we can pull them in. Because I like what you say when you say that you're going to be serving the people of Duval County.
Right.
That's irrespective of color. You're going to be serving the people of Duval County. So we want to be able to engage them all
Right.
to respond and support you in your efforts.
Absolutely. So let me just say this. I'm a worker. I'm not that kind of person that will just sit at home, sit behind a desk. I believe in getting out in the trenches, going to where the people are, knocking on doors, every opportunity that I can get to engage and to speak with the citizens of Duval County. Because not only do I want them to hear from me, but I also want to hear from them. Far too long have individuals in certain positions impart upon the community what the community needs without listening to the community first. So that's part of my plan, is to be out there knocking on the doors, speaking in forums, or any other opportunity that I have to engage with the voters, because it is important.
Dr. Washington, you go ahead and complete your thoughts. And I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, for one thing, I'm doing, first of all, and I agree, the Democratic Party, as I've already said, has also taken Black voters for granted. There's no doubt about it. They assume that Blacks are just going to automatically vote for them, and it's one of the reasons they're in the trouble they're in now. But in terms of my own interest, one thing I mentioned that I've been teaching for 40 years, I am in the process of going to community groups that are interested in teaching American government. That's what I do. I teach, a government is complicated. The Electoral College, Congress, the City Council, federalism, people don't know the difference. They don't
Yes.
know there's a state legislature, there's a U.S. House, and there's a U.S. Senate, and there's a state House, and there's a state Senate, and they have a state representative, they have a state senator, or there's a city council at large and districts. So those are the things that I have been doing for a number of groups, and I'm very happy to do that. And I'm trying to be as non-political as possible, but I'm also looking at the status of where the Republican Party is right now. And the Democratic Party is in dire straits. The popularity of the Democratic Party is very low. I think the Wall Street Journal just published a poll saying that 36% of the voters, people, I don't know how accurate it really is, are not happy, are happy with the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party has a lot of work to do. In the meantime, I think what we need to say is that for me, I'm interested in Black politics, in the status of Black Americans, and in the status of Black Jacksonville. That is my interest. And by the way, I also speak to groups. I'll be speaking to a group in Riverside in a few weeks for Constitution Day. So I'm not just limiting my teaching, but I, as an individual, and it's something I can do as an individual. Just like Deborah says, she wants to do things as an individual. I want to teach government to people as best I can so they can understand it. Because even, I don't care if you say to them, you go out and teach yourself, you cannot tell someone to teach themselves the Electoral College. It's too difficult.
Yeah, actually, that brings to mind, man. We may need to have a program in which we can do. I know it may take a little longer than an hour, but at least maybe a series of programs where we can bring you on as a teacher, so to speak, for government. So I'm happy that you brought that into focus, because how does policy history affect the local platform in terms of? And by the way, your numbers for the popularity of the Democratic Party was better than mine. I remember looking at 27%. You at least gave 35%, but I saw a number that said 27%. So, but tell me, what do you think about those policies? How does today's Black voter respond to a local political platform? What do you think? Oh, like she's
Yeah,
frozen.
she got turned around, frozen on us. So here's one of the things that, as I talk with young folks, that I continue to get, and as we hear from politicians, we hear about the grassroots campaign, and there is a neglect of the social media campaign, a reaching individuals of a certain group where they are. So the millennial group right now is the largest population in the world. There are more millennials than any other group there is. But in most places, most arenas, most environments, in the inclusion of politics, the way we reach out to them, it's not apropos for their generation. So I make that as a statement, not necessarily as a question, and definitely hope that Ms. Wesley, you have some plans and thoughts and ideas about reaching out to that generation.
Absolutely. And also with that is there are so many things, so many pieces of this puzzle that, sadly to say, people just aren't informed. So yes, it is very important to get information out so that people can make informed decisions when it comes to voting.
Awesome.
Yeah, we have a question from one of our listeners, Dr. Kenneth Jones. What specifically are Black Republicans doing to present a different picture than the? If I have to,
I was saying then the current picture.
Yeah, I think if I had inserted that, I think he probably want to finish that up than Black Democrats or Democrats.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What specifically are Black Republicans doing to present a different picture than I'm gonna say the Black Democrats, or I'm sorry. Yeah, what specifically are Black Republicans doing to present a different picture than the anti-Black Republicans, one presented by national Republican leaders?
Wow.
All right. So I will say, for me personally, my role as a member or a candidate for city council at large here in the city of Jacksonville, Duval County, my role is to put the needs of the city of Jacksonville first. And I know that, we're talking a lot about the Black community. I'm here to serve and to be a voice for everyone, meaning making sure that the Black community is not left out of the conversations that are held.
So that kind of goes along with what he's saying. Your priorities align with the needs of the Black community. How do your priorities align with the needs of the Black community while still staying true to Republican principles.
Correct. So let me just say, I recognize that there are quite a few issues that are important in the city of Jacksonville, and some that are dear to me, that I'm passionate about. Is just a few. Is I think we need more programs and resources for literacy and education for our youth. The issue with the homeless population, you know, people want a vibrant downtown, but we can't build up downtown until we clean it up. And so when it comes to the homeless population, you know, a lot of these people have drug addictions, they have mental health problems. Some are here, don't have any family here. And so I can say that the sheriff's office has a program to assist with that. The city has already started a program to assist with that. But when it comes to the homeless issue, this is something that's an ongoing thing. But when it comes to my priority, the top priorities for me is public safety. And here's why. Having a safe community is vitally important to the growth of our community. People want to live where they're safe. A safe Jacksonville will make people want to live in Jacksonville. And one issue that I see is we have a lot of people that work here in Jacksonville, but they live in other counties because they don't feel safe here. They don't feel that their children are getting the best education here. They don't feel that their parents are safe here. So they'll work here and make the money here, but then they live in another county. So public safety is top priority so that we can create and maintain a safe Jacksonville so that people will live here, spend their money here. And when we have the people paying property taxes here, and then it also brings forth new businesses here, people spending their money here, then we will have the resources that we need to take care of all of the other issues that we have. Hence, providing more programs and things that are needed for our youth and addressing the issues with the homelessness, because it's very expensive to, you know, get these people stable with the medications that they need, you know, with the mental health issues, getting them the help that they need to get the rehabilitation with the drug addictions that they may have. It takes money. So if we can have a safe Jacksonville and have more people living here and investing here, then we will have more resources that we need to address all of those other issues. And so when you ask the question, well, what does that have to do with the Black community and the Republican Party? It's all one big basket.
So does that lead into what you know, and you may have some additional planning to do, but what you may do think about doing to provide more affordable housing in Jacksonville? Because that's one of the big things. It's not just Jacksonville; it's throughout Florida, especially. But it's still a key issue in Jacksonville: affordable housing.
Yes, affordable housing is an issue, but also with that is where are we building the affordable homes? Okay. We have some segments of the community that have multiple apartment complexes within a few miles of each other. So I think we need to look at the need for the affordable housing and then where we're building the affordable housing. And what does that look like?
Okay, so what well, before we answer that question, RCA is what is the primary need you would say that negatively affects the Black community?
Well, I think that when it comes to infrastructure is an issue. We have some segments of the community where we get a good strong rain, people's homes are flooding. I think that is an issue that the city needs to be addressing. Um, we have food deserts. Children can't function in school if they're hungry. That's a major issue as well.
So with that being said, what is your position on decreasing gun violence and giving preference to Duval County residents? Because you mentioned people coming into the city and working,
Mhm.
and then going back out of the city. So, in addition to that, what is your what is your position of giving preferences to Duval County residents when applying for city job? If that's something you've given a thought about, it's
Um,
also something.
I honestly think that that is something that should probably be a topic of discussion. And I don't know if anyone has ever actually looked at that and considered that. But I mean, just like veterans get preferences, if you live in Duval County and you meet the qualifications of the jobs, I don't see any reason why the citizen that lives here shouldn't be considered first.
Absolutely. And your position on gun, Dr. Washington, I think may still be. Dr. Washington, you with us? No, she's
Yeah,
still.
I still think she's having some challenges, and I think we've heard a lot of things go on here, and there's a lot of conversation that can be had. But if I may, I just like to reemphasize some of the things that I've heard here. One being that safety and security and people feeling safe, and the impact social, economical, those things have on any society. I think that's a powerful statement, but the question it will always lead to is the ones that we got after that, and that is, how do we, regardless of party, push forward methods or legislation that will improve that? In the past, in Jacksonville, we were promised more cops, didn't get them. We were promised these things that would add to the safety of the city that have yet um, to matriculate to come out. So there's a lot of challenges we have forced in that category. But I am a firm believer in that process, that theory as well, that we need to make safety a top priority. So from that, a lot of things grow.
Well,
Absolutely.
gun violence being one of the things that we have to address. Um, if you got an opinion on that, Dr. West? I mean,
Yes. So I think that when it comes to gun violence, the first question is the rights of citizens to own guns. Um, and I have no issue with citizens having a right to own guns, but I think it's important and imperative that gun owners are responsible with the guns they own, because what we find more often than not is that the individuals that are committing the crimes with the guns are using guns that have been stolen. Someone has left a gun in their car, they left the door unlocked, the gun is stolen from an unlocked car. Ultimately, is more than likely going to end up being used in a crime.
So, Ms. Washington, you left us for a second, and we want to bring you back into the conversation. Go ahead. Do we have a? We're not hearing you. That's the only. She's not on mute. There we go. No, Ms. Washington, we're not hearing you for some reason. Work on your. Just let us know when you're able to hear anything. Well, we got quite a bit of feed into people asking questions. like, what is your position on lowering property taxes? Ms. Wesley said, we can't hear Dr. Washington. Dr. Washington, just if you say something, we'll gladly let you, back into the conversation. We just can't hear you.
Okay. So, I own a home and I understand. I feel it just like everybody else does when it comes to lowering property taxes. I know there was some recent conversation about eliminating property taxes altogether. And I'm going to be honest and transparent. When I first heard that, I was like, yes. But then I had to stop and think, what is being done with the money that is created by us paying taxes on our property? And when I looked at those things, I had to take a step back and, like, wait a minute, hold up, because that money goes to our schools. It pays, helps pay salaries for our public safety employees in the city. So we have to look at the money that is generated through property taxes. Currently, how is that money being spent? And if we eliminate that money or even reduce it, where does that leave us? So it's not just a yes, let's do it, or no, not do it. We have to look at the big picture and make an informed decision about it.
Well, some people, Dr. Washington, are you there yet? No, still not here. I'm sorry. Well, Ms. Weston, what he mentioned is the property taxes. One of our viewers feel like the city tax money is not being spent to improve the north side community. What do we look at doing to improve the north side community? And of course, when we talk north side community, I'm talking about Black voters and Black residents and so on and so on. It's a general view of things for those that are not aware.
Yeah. So I'll just say a couple of things on that. First of all, I think we need to be, if we're not, we need to be involved. We need to show up at the meetings. We need to make sure our voices are being heard. We need to pay attention when rezoning signs are coming up. We need to hold our public officials accountable. Every segment of the community has someone to represent their district. They need to be in constant communication with the representative of their district. That person is supposed to be a voice. They're supposed to be the ear that's listening to what you need. In my opinion, they should be the eyes. They should be driving around that district, driving around those communities day and night, seeing what the issues are, what the needs are, and talking to their constituents, and then coming to the table and being a voice for the needs of the people that they're serving.
That means you're going to be a busy woman because you represent all those districts.
That's right.
That means you should be a very busy woman along that line.
That's right.
Okay. Let's see.
I also think too, and I understand that, my role is that I wouldn't have a total control or the authority to say this is what it's going to be. It's so important to be able to work together. The council is made up of 19 members. So the person that's being the voice for whatever that issue is, they need to be very informed. They need to come to the table with the issue, with the facts, with the resolution to the problem. Come up and make sure that the resolution they have, it makes common sense, and so that they will be able to influence their colleagues to agree with what it is they're trying to do. You got to be able to paint the picture where everyone on that committee, or at least the majority on that committee, can see what the need is and realize that what you're presenting is for the good of the people.
Someone asked two things. There's someone that asked about your thoughts on road improvement needed in the Ocean Way area, and what your thoughts are on that.
So listen, I live over here. And I see it. And to me, it goes back to, are we making the complaints? We have the Streets and Highways Division that is responsible for the upkeep of our roads and our streets. Are we reaching out to them? Are we following up with our complaints? If we're getting no responses, are we reaching out to the district council member to then do their part in addressing those issues? Because keep in mind, your district council member lives in that community as well. So if I'm going to represent you and I live here, I'm representing myself as well. I want what's best for where I live as well as where you live. And I just think that we have to hold our elected officials accountable. And listen, and if we have elected officials that aren't serving, then the next time it's time to vote, you might need to find another candidate.
Cut them out. I agree with that. Will you agree to hold community meetings in all the districts that you represent?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And if elected, what will be the first bill and that may take a little, I don't know if you're able to answer this meeting just yet, but if elected, what will be the first bill you would introduce?
I honestly couldn't answer that question at this moment.
Yeah, give it a moment in time. I understand.
Yeah. I have to give that one some thought. And honestly, I don't. Yeah, I have to put some thought into that one. I can't say definitively what that would be at this point in time.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, given that we're still out a year and some, how much?
Yes,
yeah.
A year.
It may be more pressing issues. I think the question was like, what, given at this moment in time, if you had to make a decision on it, what would it be? And so I still respect your answer, however that would be. Ms. Washington.
Well, I'll tell you, we really appreciate you coming on, Miss Wesley. An hour never seems to be enough time to have these kind of discussions. There is so much that we all feel important to impart into our viewers and our listeners. We thank you seriously for coming on and sharing with us. As we come up on an hour and be respectful of your time, even though we're still experiencing some challenge with Dr. Washington, we always like to give our guests an opportunity at the end of the show to say something that's on their heart or to speak to any of the things that we have gone over or have not gone on. So if you would, please, you could do that at this time.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here today and to share and to speak. One thing that I would like to leave with the viewers is that if someone had told me that I would be on this path just a few years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. I'm not a politician. I'm a servant. That's what I do. Help people and serve. And this whole thing came up as a thought in my head that I kept dismissing. But I've come to discover that sometimes when you have a thought that keeps coming up, that maybe it's not you, that maybe it's God trying to tell you something. And as a woman of faith, I began to pray about this, and the Lord began to speak. And God placed me on this journey. When I say this is an assignment, this is a divine assignment for me. I understand the questions and the concerns about, the party. I understand the questions and the concerns about the pressures, the tough decisions that may come up along the way. But I say to you, first and foremost, I serve God first. I want to be able to sleep well at night. So I will not sit here and present myself as one way and do something totally different. I know that if the Lord placed me on this journey, I'm here for a purpose, of divine purpose, and that is to serve. So my dedication to serving the citizens of this community, my dedication to get out there and to hear from the citizens of this community and to do what's best for this community will be unmatched. You will not find a candidate that will be willing to go in the trenches and to hear and to listen and to serve and to do what's reasonable, what's best for the citizens of Duval County. You will not find a candidate that will serve with the heart that I have. That's my promise and my pledge to you. And I'm not here just to make promises, but to deliver real results.
Awesome.
And that Tyrone, because Dr. Washington, we hadn't gotten her back. We may be able to allow, if you can, have her maybe a little later give her a closing statement, and we add to the night program. But what's your thoughts as we close the program?
Well, it is obvious that this is a subject and a conversation that needs to further on. So we're going to definitely want to look into for doing a show like this again, and most definitely get Dr. Washington back on. Here's as I've listened to the show this evening, there is always a lot of information that is spoken, but the truth is always in the responsibility of the individuals. It was said here that we, as individuals, as voters of Jacksonville and Duval County, we have to take it upon ourselves to do our research. We have to then also, upon placing and casting our votes, we have to stay connected to the person that we vote for. We have to have their telephone number. We have to know how to contact them, and we have to do it. When we see things that we are not satisfied with, we have to speak up. The assumption and belief that because we vote a person in, they're going to know everything that needs to be done through osmosis is no longer possible. Mm-hmm. So we have to stand forth and we have to speak up on our behalf, and we have to hold our elected officials accountable regardless of what party. Dr. Kane, it's not the first time that statement has come up. Every time we have a political conversation, the belief and the understanding that we need to hold the folks we vote for responsible continues to reign. It does so because we're still shucking our duties and our responsibilities. Miss Deborah Wesley, thank you very much for coming on to the show. I enjoyed listening to your comment, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, so I agree with Tyrone Weeks said in the past, exactly, that, if you vote someone in, you can also vote them out if they have not been responsive to what your needs and what your wants are to a greater degree than they are to everyone else's, especially when it comes to fairness in terms of distribution of concern throughout the community. Today's conversation has been both rich and revealing. Our guests help us explore the long arc of the Black political identity, rooted in historical struggles, but still unfolding in new ways today. From the professor's deep historical insight to our candidates' frontline experience, we saw that this moment isn't just about politics, it's about presence, participation, and progress. We hope we leave today's episode more informed, more curious, and more empowered to engage your own civic journey. Until next time, this is Pause for the Truth. Stay tuned, stay active, stay grounded in facts and freedom, and thanks to our guests for being on the show. And please hold so we can wrap it up after the show. Good night.
Good night.
We appreciate you spending time with us on Pause for the Truth. Ms. Jocelyn Turner and Dr. Rogers Kane are grateful for your support. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, catch us live on Twitch, and most importantly, subscribe on YouTube. A big shout out to Tyrone Jackson at Call Tyrone IT Services for keeping us connected. Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more enlightening discussions. Thanks, and see you next week.